Welcome to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
The following video was uploaded by a mother named Anisha and was originally taken by her son late at night when the rest of the family was asleep. The reason for the recording was that Anisha's 4-year-old son was convinced that the elf toy hanging on the frame would come to life and move on its own. So he set up a camera recording it overnight as he slept, and when he woke up he saw something that made him cry. So he shows it to his mum and she sees this. In a bright flash of light, a silhouette of a young child appears for an instant before disappearing again. Many people couldn't help but notice the appearance of this figure seemed awfully thin and bony, as if it was the spirit of a dead person. The child doesn't seem to move and is also looking at the elf toy.
I thought this was interesting because it doesn't look like a normal child's silhouette. I'm wondering if this is an alien or something. If this footage is legit and it wasn't tampered with in any way, if they actually caught this on camera, what if it's the flash we've heard described by people who have witnessed these things materializing in their homes? We had that viral video a month or so back that was supposedly showing that exact thing, but I didn't buy it. Maybe that's what someone just caught on camera here.
This was actually captured on a camera in a police station. The camera was set to overlook the parking lot outside of the station. On this night, a desk sergeant noticed something extremely peculiar showing up on camera. Something that they could never explain. They even admit they found this very unnerving and have never seen anything like this before. Naturally enough, they set out to debunk it as maybe being a bug or a glitch, but they discovered it was neither. You have to watch for yourself what it was that shook even seasoned officers to the core. Please note, the officer who released this to the public domain had permission to do so, for the reason of appealing to the public what they think this could be. Watch this.
Something odd I noticed about this clip is that when the object appears to fly towards the camera, it looks like it leaves an exact replica of itself behind, almost like it threw something at the camera. I'm having a very difficult time rationalizing what this one could be. My gut tells me this footage was tampered with. The apparition seems to be aware of the presence of the camera because it's throwing something right at it. They conveniently leave out the name of the police station so you can't look it up for yourself, and the footage cuts off while the apparition is still in the frame. For those reasons, I'm going to have to say I can't buy this one. Hey, don't forget to click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my merch store at barry-stepp.com.
This will be the scariest video you see all week. Watch this. The following video I'm going to show you was submitted by one of my followers all the way from Australia. There are two separate video clips that I'm going to let you watch and listen to all together. His son was working in the Australian Outback in the middle of nowhere, and they were setting up a camp, like a work camp. First video, you're not going to see much. It's completely dark, but you're going to hear some of the creepiest moaning that you've ever heard, followed by dogs barking, but there were no dogs. Second video is from inside, and you're going to see a creepy, scary looking witch type ghost figure that you've ever seen. Watch this. Let me know in the comments what you think this could be.
I've done a lot of digging trying to figure out what that sound is. I'm convinced that's some sort of Australian drop bear. That's the only thing that I can think of that would be in that area that could potentially make a sound like that. And those things would be terrifying to hear at night. They sound like dinosaurs. But that apparition thing there at the end, I don't have a clue what that was. That thing looked terrifying. At first, I thought it was a reflection on the window. But I've gone back and looked at it about a dozen times and watched it in slow motion and zoomed in and all that, and it looks like an old lady with black hair in a robe who was partially made out of smoke for some reason, floated down out of the sky onto that truck and then floated down onto the ground. That has to be faked. I don't think you could survive the heart attack seeing something like that would give you long enough to post this video.
What are the things that have convinced you that this object is constructed, that it's some form of artificial construction? It's not just a lump of rock sitting at the bottom of the Baltic Sea.
It's a number of things. I cannot say one thing. It's the triangle with a hole in it. That's one thing. It's it's a 60-meter diameter round thing that looks like it's separated from the bottom. You have this track on the bottom also, like 1,500 meters. You have these angles, you have these holes, we have also been with the ROV under it, in the front of it, if you can call it that, and see lots of strange things. It's like burn material, like something have burned on it.
One of the other things I wanted to explore with you, Dennis, is you noticed other anomalies when you were on site. You had all sorts of weird things happening over the object. Can you talk me through what happened?
Yeah, lots of things have happened out there. The first time we were out there, we noticed that we have problems with our equipment. The ROV did not work properly, and I remember when Stefan was coming up and explained for me about taking samples. He said also, Dennis, it's something strange because usually we have 4 to 5 Celsius plus down there, but now Dennis was 0. I have never experienced that before, and that's not the only thing. Even his camera stopped working, the light stopped working. And when we talked about that, I said, okay, we have the same problem with the ROV, with the robot. The compass not working properly, and it feels like this thing or whatever it is don't want us to come near it. That's why we did not. It was very difficult to find the spot again with the ROV.
So you were getting some kind of, electromagnetic interference with your technology?
Yeah.
Tell me about the radar. You were getting ghost images on the radar as well, weren't you?
Yeah, well, we had almost every time, but this time it was so clear. We have anchor over the object. We start preparing for the dive, and was blue sky, the sun was shining, no ship in there. We were totally alone that time. And then we look at the radar, and it's popping up like dots on the screen, like something is out there. And I remember Peter and I look at each other and say, okay, what is that? And it should not be anything out here. So I take we go out and look, and we did not see anything. But still, it's popping up everywhere around us. And I'm talking about the area of 150, 200 meters from the ship. And we have no ship there. So, yeah.
I'm curious to know what y'all think about the Baltic Sea structure. I'm kind of torn myself. I know they certainly had enough reported strange anomalies to make it plausible that that thing is some sort of alien technology sitting on the ocean floor. I just feel like it wouldn't make any sense to put something in an area where it's going to be clearly visible to any planes flying overhead. If it is alien technology, they did a horrible job of hiding it. But it seems like every team that tries to go research this thing has the same experience of malfunctioning equipment that keeps them from collecting any data. Maybe it's so well protected they don't care if we find it. What do y'all think?
Ever wondered how some places on Earth, like the pyramids of Egypt or Mount Shasta, seem to have more energy than others? Did you ever wonder why certain ancient sites are located where they are? These questions lead us to the captivating concept of ley lines, a groundbreaking theory initially introduced by Alfred Watkins. Watkins, a versatile Englishman, came upon this theory in the early 20th century. He discovered that numerous ancient sites, ranging from antiquated churches to magical stone circles, appeared to align with each other over extensive distances. These alignments were not haphazardly sprinkled across the landscape, but were deliberate placements, drawing unseen connective lines around Earth. Spellbound, he delved further into his observations, and in the year 1921, he coined the term ley lines to denote these compelling energy lines. Watkins' theory ignited an international curiosity that provided a fresh perspective of our planet and its ancient civilizations. Consider the native people of the United States. They used to refer to ley lines as spirit lines, and their shamans would use the electromagnetic energy in these lines to communicate with the spirits. They even based their medicine wheel on the spirit lines, since they understood they followed a straight round path. The Druids termed them mystical lines. In Europe, the Welsh used the same name as the Eastern countries. They called them dragon lines. We know that dragon lines were named by Eastern countries because the sky gods flew on dragons along these lines. The Aborigines of Australia referred to these lines as dream lines, and they claim that knowledge was sent down to them from the gods of the sky.
That's interesting to find out that even though this one guy claims to be the one who came up with the idea of ley lines, we clearly have documentation from other ancient civilizations who figured it out before him. I think if these ley lines are that important, which every civilization we have a record of seems to have thought so, then why are we calling them ley lines? We should probably find out what the oldest civilizations referred to them as and call them that. This might be one of those situations where the language is as important as the topic itself. If an ancient civilization could figure this out, without access to a map with all these structures on it to be able to link them all together, they likely had a better understanding of not only what it is, but what its importance is. I'm just suspicious that these are being referred to as ley lines to hide their true significance from us.
I hope you're ready for this one, but the keys to understanding the entire universe is not hidden. In fact, understanding this will show you everything that you need to know to understand everything. These are cells, right? Every single cell in your body, every single one has the genetic code of the original fertilized egg. So a skin cell that has differentiated into a specific function still has the potentiality and access to the code to be a neuron, a liver cell, or even another full organism. Let's talk about stem cells, right? Everybody hears stem cell research. These cells are undifferentiated. They have not yet chosen an identity. They remain in the state of pure potential, that potential of the entire genetic blueprint for the organism. They can become whatever state the body needs them to be. Well, how do they know what to become? Signals. Signals tell them what to become. Chemical, electric, epigenetic. You dive into epigenetics, it is absolutely wild. DNA is not some rigid script that is run. It is a responsive code. Genes can be turned on or off in response to things like environment, experience, or even consciousness. Every cell, in every freaking cell, the potentiality of the whole organism is contained, but what is expressed is determined by environment and signals. Let's talk about the holographic universe and the fractal nature of reality. Fractal is a pattern that repeats at every level. Tree branches, root systems, your lungs, lightning bolts, they're all patterned after the same systems. This is for efficiency reasons. So what is a hologram? A hologram simply means that every piece contains the entire image. Every piece contains the information of the whole. If you break a holographic plate in half, you will have two plates that now contain the same images, just at a lower resolution. Your cells, your body, society, psychology, even the universe, they all follow similar patterns. Why? Then you will hear in any esoteric tradition people talking about how all separation is illusion, that we're all pieces of the same whole, that reality is a mirror, that we are all unified by consciousness. Remember, every single cell has the potentiality of the entire organism contained within it. It just expresses a certain portion. What signals in your life dictate what you are expressing? Because there is a lot of programming that impacts your subconscious and impacts what you embody in this three-dimensional realm. All limitation is conditioned. You have the potentiality of the whole already within you. This is why people say the answer is already within you. You're not learning anything, you're just remembering it. You're learning how to access it. You are a unique individual expression, but you are connected to the whole.
I thought that was one of the best breakdowns I've ever heard for explaining the concept of everyone and everything being interconnected. If literally every cell of our body is set up that way, meaning that on the microscopic level everything is connected, why would it not be mirroring the reality of how things work on the macro level? The same concept, but on a grander scale. This makes complete sense to me and would explain things like astral projection, deja vu, out-of-body experiences. These are all things that would require you to be able to tap into things that you have to be already connected to but just don't have regular access to. Maybe we all contain the DNA of the collective consciousness, and when we're in the womb, we're in a state of undifferentiated pure possibility, and then the universe decides what it needs us to be.
People are feeling that the sequence of events, the drones, the fog, the fires, and people feeling sick is quite strange. This is really wild. Why Boston? Why? I mean, like, this is so crazy. It's all over. We got the same thing happening in Western Australia on January 2nd.
So I've been looking all over TikTok about fog talk, and here we go. We've got a bit of fog heading over to Rottnest Island. We're off the coast of Western Australia heading to Rottnest Island, and we've got this weird fog.
Let's just take notes here. Boston, December 30th. Then we got Western Australia, January 2nd. Not only that, people are not reporting these symptoms, but there are a few strange coincidences. The fog that was tested in the 1950s was in California. Now, we did have the fog in California and then the fires. And we also have the same thing happening in Brazil. The fog first and then the fires. And people were actually arrested for these fires. So they were intentional. Not sure this is the case in California, but I can understand why some people are feeling as if this could be some sort of testing or something like that.
Slide, y'all ready? And I got gloves on. Look at this. Ready? All right. Whoop. That's all we're going to need right there. So as you can see, look, literally, this is how it's going to go, just like that. Now watch this. Hold on. Look at there. Same exact thing, okay? Look. Same exact thing. Y'all tell me what on earth this is supposed to be. It's purple and it's in the snow. And look, there it is. Look at that. The slide. Look at that. Has not. That's it. That's what's on there. What y'all just saw is what I just showed you. That's it. Explain that.
Is it just me? Or does it seem kind of strange? Because salt is supposed to dissolve the snow. Why is the snow only surrounding the particles of salt? But there's no snow anywhere else.
Sure seems like there's enough circumstantial evidence there to make you think twice about going outside to build a snowman. I've never seen snow act like that, and the most obvious answer there is that the composition of that snow is different than the composition of snow we've seen in the past. I honestly think that a lot of this is just people worrying about nothing, though. I know the government has done stuff like this in the past, so anyone experiencing this has every right to be a little paranoid about it, but I think a lot of this is just the snow or the fog mixing with other pollutants that are already in the air naturally, like volcanic ash or a fire or something that's burning in the next town over that they're not aware of. We just experienced a rain the other night that left all of our vehicles covered in a thick brown muddy substance. We immediately started conjuring up conspiracy theories, but then after about 10 minutes of searching on Google, we discovered that there was a dust storm in another state, and a lot of that dust blew over western Kentucky, and it all rained down on our vehicles. There usually is a simple explanation.
How did President Nixon call the moon on a landline in 1969? Let's break down exactly how NASA says it worked. NASA's official explanation. NASA says Nixon's call to the Apollo 11 astronauts was a standard telephone call, but it was relayed through an advanced communication system. Here's how it supposedly worked. Nixon used a regular landline at the White House. The call was routed through NASA's Mission Control in Houston. Houston then transmitted Nixon's voice to the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex in California, which had an 85-foot radio antenna. The signal was beamed 239,000 miles to the moon, where the lunar module's VHF radio picked it up. Armstrong and Aldrin responded, and their voices were sent back to Earth the same way. Sounds simple, right? But here's why it shouldn't have worked. The problems with the moon phone call 1. The missing signal delay. The moon is 239,000 miles away, and radio signals take 1.3 seconds one way, meaning Nixon's call should have had at least a 2.6-second delay in responses. Yet, in the broadcast, Armstrong and Aldrin respond instantly, faster than even 1960s transatlantic calls. Even if Mission Control relayed the call instantly, you'd still hear the delay in the astronauts' responses, but there's barely any. 2. The weak lunar transmitter. The lunar module's radio had only 12 watts of power, about the strength of a household Wi-Fi router. Transmitting a clear, two-way conversation across 239,000 miles with such low power? Highly unlikely. NASA's Deep Space Network needed massive radio dishes just to pick up Apollo signals, yet Nixon's voice came through crystal clear? 3. Earth's 1969 communication limitations. Long-distance calls in 1969 were unreliable. They had static, dropouts, and delays even across the U.S. Transatlantic calls required undersea cables or early satellites, which still had long pauses and interference. But somehow, Nixon's call to space, and even greater distance, worked perfectly with no issues. Before, radio interference and ionosphere distortion signals from the moon had to pass through Earth's ionosphere, which causes distortion and signal loss. But Nixon's call had no static or interference. Solar radiation and cosmic noise should have affected the transmission, yet the audio is flawless. Number 5. A perfect two-way conversation. The Apollo system supposedly allowed full duplex communication, meaning both parties could talk at the same time, like a modern cell phone. But even military radios in 1969 often used push-to-talk half duplex, meaning only one person could speak at a time. Somehow, Nixon's call functioned like a perfect two-way conversation, despite the extreme distance and limitations of 1960s tech. So, could Nixon really have called the moon?
And I bet if you go ask NASA how they overcame these challenges, they're going to tell you that they've lost that technology. It was destroyed long, long ago, and it's a painful and difficult process to build it all back up again. For a long time, I held the belief that they likely went to the moon, but they just gave us all fake footage. But the more I dig into this thing, the more I'm convinced they faked the whole dang thing. Absolutely no part of this story makes any sense with the details that they've given us. And NASA never gives us any answers to these questions. They just call us conspiracy theorists like that's going to make their problem go away. The fact that most grown adults that I know personally do not believe that the moon landing happened, they have no one to blame for that but themselves.
You learned that absolutely blew your freaking mind.
So more than likely you've heard of this guy. This is David Koresh. He was a leader of a cult in Waco, Texas called the Branch Davidians, which got into a 51-day standoff in 1993 with FBI and ATF agents. It resulted in 70 some odd deaths. You probably have never heard of this guy. This is William Miller. He was a Baptist lay preacher in the early 1800s, started a movement called Millerism. And what he did is he took out his Bible, he did some Common Core math, and determined that Jesus Christ was going to return between the spring of 1843 and the spring of 1844. Shocker, that didn't happen. I don't know, something about nobody knows the day or the hour. And of course, William Miller went, well, actually, I got some math wrong. I forgot to carry the two. And the actual date of Christ's return is going to be October 22nd, 1844. And so his followers sold basically everything that they had. They went to a mountainside. The sun came up on October 22nd. The sun went down on October 22nd. And lo and behold, Jesus didn't come back. Okay, so what does he have to do with David Koresh? I'm getting to that. So as a result of what's called the Great Disappointment, basically these people sitting on a hilltop and Jesus never showed up, we got the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They were officially formed in 1863 from a bunch of loosely associated Adventist groups. And speaking incredibly generally, they said, we like what Miller had to say, just not the whole predicting the end of the world thing. So maybe let's not do that. Also, let's worship on Saturday. Then this guy shows up on the scene seen in 1919 by the name of Victor Houteff. In about 1930, the Seventh-day Adventists kick him out for heretical doctrine. Now, back in the day, there was no TikTok, so if you wanted to espouse your heretical doctrine, you had to start a cult. You had to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do some groundwork. And so Victor starts a group in Waco, Texas by the name of the Shepherd's Rod, or more appropriately, the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. And of course they put this heavy focus on the fact that they are indeed the 144,000 that are mentioned in the book of Revelation. If you say that sounds familiar, yeah, it's a Jehovah's Witness doctrine as well. This movement grows and grows and grows until he dies in 1955. And of course, whenever you think you're part of a group more exclusive than the Costco membership, it's bound to splinter the group. So his thousands of followers splinter into various different groups. One of the groups being the Branch Davidians, or the General Association of Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. The eventual leader of which was David Koresh, who claimed that he was the Messiah, the chosen one of God, who would bring about the end of all days. So William Miller's Common Core math is indirectly responsible for the events that transpired at Waco, Texas in 1993. He was just off by like 149 years. Also, it was an Antichrist, not the Christ.
I'm just going to have to take that guy on his word for most of that. It lines up pretty well with what I know about that case, but I just cannot get sucked into researching Waco again. I just do not have the desire to increase the anger in my life. Every time I've ever looked into that case, I can feel my blood start to boil. From the accusations against them as a group and him as an individual, which I highly suggest you do not look into, to the details of the FBI's final push to remove them by force, which I also highly suggest you do not look into. Some things are just too dark to get out of your head, and anything dealing with children falls into that category for me. I thought this was an interesting connection, though, that really shows the long-lasting effects of these cults. I guess sometimes, even whenever the leader is found to be a fraud, people still hold on to their false doctrines like they have some sort of value. That really shows the power that these people have over their followers. That's absolutely insane. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back on Monday with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out my merch store at barry-stepp.com. And don't forget to leave a photo of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But with all that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day and your weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.